Number 10. Sniffed by an elephant. Instagram model Francia James claims that she was groped by a gigantic African elephant in South Carolina in the summer of 2019. The 34-year-old female elephant allegedly tried to remove the model's bikini at the safari park in Myrtle Beach. Francia approached a massive animal, stood next to it to take a photograph in nothing but her bikini, and then the elephant started grabbing at her with its trunk. The elephant, whose name is Bubbles and was rescued after the rest of her herd was killed by poachers in the 1980s, really tried to yank the woman's top off. According to what Francia said about the incident, the elephant's trunk felt like a man's hand, but with a vacuum attached to it. And while it certainly looks as though the elephant was purposely trying to remove her clothing, the truth is that it most likely just smelled her perfume. Animal experts agree Francia must have been wearing a scent that the elephant found interesting, and she was merely trying to investigate with her trunk. The elephant wasn't intentionally trying to disrobe Francia, she was just curious why she smelled so strange. Number 9. Monkey Rampage. In the early weeks of summer 2022, 42 people were attacked by monkeys in Yamaguchi City, Japan. The attacks have been blamed on a rampaging group of angry Japanese macaque monkeys who appear to be targeting everyone from children to the elderly. These monkeys have been living in Japan for longer than humans, and it's fairly normal to see them in various parts of the country. They typically live in the mountains and forested areas, and they don't normally go on violent rampages. City officials say it's rare to see so many attacks in such a short period of time. They say that at the beginning of the rampage, it was only children and women who the monkeys were targeting. But as the monkeys got braver, they began going after elderly people and adult men. In an attempt to put a halt to the wild rampage of angry monkeys, the police set out traps. These traps failed, and so too did the police patrols meant to dissuade the monkeys from attacking people. The monkeys are too clever for the traps and have even outsmarted the local police. Thankfully, the monkeys haven't caused too much harm yet. Some residents of the city have had primates break through their sliding doors and pillage their kitchens. A kindergarten classroom was broken into, and several children were nearly kidnapped. But so far, the only injuries anyone has suffered are scratches and a few monkey bites. Number 8. The Hammerhead Shark. Beachgoers in Florida were shocked and a little unnerved when they encountered the mother of all sharks washed up on the beach. According to one eyewitness, nobody would ever want to see an animal this big up close and personal. The creature that had the beachgoers' jaws on the floor was a whopping hammerhead shark, a beast of the sea weighing an estimated 500 pounds, 227 kilograms, and stretching 11 feet, 3.3 meters, from the tip of its hammer-shaped head to its tail. Hannah Med from the American Shark Conservancy told CNN that to see a hammerhead shark on the beach is a very rare event. It happened on April 6, 2022, on Pompano Beach. Luckily for the beachgoers, the colossal shark was already deceased, so it couldn't have possibly bitten anyone. But sadly for the shark, it looked to have been pregnant. Investigators also discovered a hook inside the shark's mouth, suggesting it had been caught and then released by a fisherman. The huge shark likely succumbed to shock from its traumatic experience, then accidentally washed ashore. Even if a fish is caught and then released, it often has a very high chance of perishing. In the end, those at the beach got a little more than they had bargained for, and the monster shark was carried away on a forklift with help from a nearby construction crew. Number 7. Snake in a jar. A snake enthusiast from Heilongjiang, China, purchased 3 venomous snakes submerged in a jar of medicinal wine. This is a fairly common thing to do in China, with the venomous snakes being used to treat illnesses. The man had supposedly tried all kinds of modern treatments, but there was just nothing that would cure his son. According to the China Times, he had no other choice than to go the more traditional route. In Chinese culture, snake wine, a special liquor prepared by stuffing a live venomous snake into a jar of rice wine, is believed to have beneficial properties. The wine is left to marinate for several months with the snake inside of it, then it can be consumed for use as an anti-inflammatory or a painkiller. Scientists have long since debunked snake wine as nothing but a myth, but people still drink it. Now here's where the story of the man and his sick child gets truly strange. When he opened a jar in 2021, the snake inside allegedly lashed out and bit him. The snake had been in the jar for months, but somehow wasn't dead and was instead in a dormant state. This kind of thing isn't even as rare as it may sound, allegedly. The China Times reported that snakes can slip into a dormant stasis for several years. And if the jar isn't sealed properly, there's enough air flowing in through the cracks that the snake can survive. However, this is in fact medically impossible. The truth is that no snake in the world can be submerged in any type of liquid for more than an hour without dying. Snakes are ordinary animals and have no magical powers, and definitely no medicinal properties. How in the world the victim really wound up being bitten and rushed to the hospital, nobody is really sure. All we know is that reports from China claim he was treated for the bite and made a full recovery. Number 6. The Gila Monster. A resident of Mesa, Arizona, was surprised to discover a terrifying monster hiding in their home in May of 2022. The creature is called a Gila monster, and it was hiding in the homeowner's new property behind a stack of picture frames leaning against a hallway wall. The homeowners were so terrified they had to call a local expert to remove the beast before it lashed out and attacked them. For locals who have lived in Arizona their whole lives, the Gila monster may not seem like that frightening of a creature, but to everyone else, it is a venomous reptile that may as well be a Komodo dragon. The Gila monster is the only venomous lizard native to the US. They can grow to be nearly 2 feet, 0.6 meters long, and they typically have a black and yellow pattern that makes them stand out. But the most terrifying thing about the Gila monster is that its venom is just as toxic as that of the western diamondback rattlesnake, according to the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute. The only difference is that the Gila monster doesn't inject venom through fangs. Instead, it chews venom into its mouth through grooves in its teeth. Then when it bites something or somebody, the venom seeps into the wound. Luckily for the new homeowners, the reptile was removed without incident. Brian Hughes from Rattlesnake Solutions, a professional lizard remover, says it was most likely drawn into their home by the coolness of their air conditioning. Number 5. One frisky dolphin. In 2018, the local mayor of a French beach had to ban swimming. It was the result of a rogue dolphin who was terrorizing swimmers by being a little too friendly. The lonely dolphin, apparently in need of attention, began badgering tourists in the Bay of Brest. He did this by rubbing himself against them, rubbing himself against their kayaks, and blocking them from reaching the shore. The dolphin, nicknamed Zafar by the locals, was preventing people from getting back to dry land and forcing them to rub up against him. Zafar became such a nightmare for the tourists that to avoid any further uncomfortable situations, the mayor banned people from getting into the water. There was also a public warning released for people to stay at least 150 feet, 46 meters away from the lonely dolphin. Not only was Zafar acting extremely inappropriate and traumatizing the tourists, but he was also a potential threat. Animal experts agreed that if Zafar had got too close to a human and then felt threatened, he could have done some serious damage with his flippers. But luckily, nobody was ever injured, and the summer season wound down without incident. All he really managed to do was frighten the swimmers and leave people with a newfound fear of dolphins. Number 4. Mystery Kangaroo. In February of 2022, a mysterious kangaroo was on the loose in Denmark. Denmark is in Europe, in the very north of Europe. Kangaroos are from Australia, on the complete opposite side of the planet. And yet, at 8 o'clock in the morning, while a motorist was driving to work, they spotted the kangaroo hopping through a field. Police shared the video of the oversized marsupial hopping near the village of Oster-Oslev and asked for help finding the owner, and yet nobody reported the animal missing. It doesn't appear to be anyone's pet, and none of the local zoos are missing a kangaroo. Now here's where the story takes a bit of a bizarre turn. Some have speculated that this was the same kangaroo that has been evading the authorities for years. Local student Martina Bull said she knows of a kangaroo that has been jumping around for at least a year in the same area. Local resident Claudia Ringmark went on to say there was a kangaroo loose the summer before as well, and the police were never able to find it. All these months later, police still don't know where in the world the rogue kangaroo came from, or what it's doing in Denmark. Some say it's the same kangaroo that was spotted as far back as 2014. Everyone who's ever tried to catch it has failed. Number 3. To trap a black bear. In April of 2022, a family in Buncombe County, North Carolina, woke up to find something strange happening. A mama bear had broken into their SUV and couldn't figure out how to escape. Their car had become an accidental bear trap, keeping the bear stuck inside as it went on a rampage, destroying the interior. It was around midnight when Ashley McGowan's neighbors heard the horn honking. But the honking stopped, and so they never thought too much of it. It wasn't until hours later that they learned it was a bear who had been honking the horn. Ashley didn't discover what was happening to her SUV until 6:30 in the morning when she let her dogs outside. That was when she saw the smashed window of her vehicle and the massive black bear stuck behind the driver's wheel. Ashley's presence seemed to scare the bear enough that it flew into a frenzy and punched its way through the windshield, and then scrambled off the hood and fled into the woods. We can only hope the bear was okay after its traumatizing ordeal with the SUV. Ashley figures she must have left the door unlocked, and the bear helped itself inside. Then, once stuck, it completely trashed the interior, ripped all the seats apart, pulled off the panels in the dashboard, and even bent the door frames. Number 2. Snake on the front door. A woman in Kentucky got the shock of a lifetime when she arrived at home to find a giant snake hanging like a Christmas decoration from her front door. Her name is Mara Jo Thomas, and she was bitten before she even knew what was happening. Here's how it all went down. The victim arrived at her home, walked up to her front door like she normally would, and reached for the doorknob, but she hadn't realized the snake was hanging right in front of her, and the serpent lashed out and bit her. The snake then took off, and Mara Jo Thomas had no idea if it was venomous or not. Panicked and frightened, she got right back in her car and raced to the nearest hospital. Thankfully, it was a false alarm. The slithery serpent that bit her was likely a chicken snake, attracted to her house because it was cool. Authorities say that to be bitten by a venomous snake in Kentucky, you would have to be extremely unlucky. It's just not a thing that typically happens. Number 1. Coyote attack. In Burlington, Canada, a wild coyote went on a crazed rampage and attacked 3 people completely unprovoked. Animal Services had to track the coyote down after all 3 of the victims were unexpectedly bitten. The first attack happened in August of 2022, and the other 2 happened immediately after. The first victim was an adult female walking along the Centennial Multi-Use Trail when the coyote came out of nowhere. The animal jumped on her back and took a bite out of her, then fled the scene. The second attack was a toddler minding her own business in a fenced backyard. The coyote snuck into the yard and then bit the child right on the neck. And finally, the third victim was a teenage girl at the municipal lookout. She was enjoying the view when the coyote jumped on her, tried to rip her hair out, and then bit her on the leg before scurrying away. Throughout these 3 attacks, nobody was seriously injured. After all, the coyote was barely larger than a small dog. It was a frightening experience for everyone, but no more dangerous than being bitten by a Jack Russell. Unfortunately for the coyote, it was tracked down by animal services, and its reign of terror was brought to an end. Would you rather encounter a rabid coyote in your own backyard, or wake up with a black bear in your car? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll see you soon for more awesome videos from the channel.